to pick another team fighting map. We're going to Battlefield of Eternity.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him one bit. But Gilly, I'm willing to bet you 2 slices of cake on a cake break that Hanzo does not make it through first fans.
I'll take that.
What?
I'll take that bet. Just because I want some cake too.
Wait a minute. Did I make a good bet or a bad bet?
I think it was a good bet. You're good.
I don't know. After what I've seen, ETC and Genji.
Maybe I get 2 slices of cake.
Wait, what kind of cake is it?
Red velvet.
Or you can have it.
Fine. I'm good with that.
I'm good with that too, but Battlefield of Eternity, we didn't see it in our earlier series because that was a team with simplicity in that series, and Galeforce like, nah, like we don't want to fight you on that. But as you said, this is more team fight oriented, which is when you're trying to work your way in. It doesn't have as much macro play. The camps, I think, are going to be particularly interesting in how teams approach that. We've seen on other Battlegrounds so far that we see early prioritization. I think we're going to see it again, potentially early Shaman camps, early 4-man pushes before that 3-minute mark. Some questions will be answered here on day 1.
This is another place where we could possibly see a Tyrael Greymane again too, if that seems to be SpaceStation's MO to start. Feels like SpaceStation as a team, at least last year, always went into a phase with a very specific favored composition.
Music is super creepy. Like, it got so loud and creepy. I'm like, I don't know what you're saying.
You can turn that down.
But I still have to hear you. If I turn it down, then I don't hear you.
Oh, thanks.
It's kind of how it works.
It's really nice of you.
It's
not for your job at all. A Tyrael Greymane, SpaceStation, they tend to do that. They did that last phase 2 once they had Equinox. Task Tracer was what they were running just until people were banning Tasks versus them on pretty much every map. So let's see if that is still the case for SpaceStation. If they have a preferred strategy that they will stick to, if that's even given to them again at this point.
Speaking of Equinox, do you feel that his play style and the way that he likes to play, which is aggressive, on melees especially, maybe influence the Tyrael pick? I mean, we can't say, oh, Tyrael Greymane not normal, but normally what we see in North America is slightly different. Do you think that changes the dynamic of that team having Equinox on that warrior?
Oh, absolutely. Do you remember back when he was playing tank for Galeforce at the end? He played a lot of Diablo too. He seems to like those very mobile, divey type tanks. He still likes Muradin, I would guess, too, as another potential hero for him. So I would guess heroes that he feels like he can go in, he can be the one to say, we're going to go in for this target. And Tyrael does favor that really well.
It almost makes me wonder, because certain times you're going to play a hero, especially on a tank role. Yes, you need to make plays, but you need to more or less make plays for your team. Okay, Genji made it through, or Hanzo made it through. You can have the red velvet. But I feel sometimes in the tank role, instead of being the playmaker, you need to be the setup for your team. And that's sometimes going to be a question mark, I think. They could easily be answered, you know, in this game, but Greymane, a good pickup here. Hanzo somehow making it through. I'm going to be really surprised if he makes it past here.
Yeah, now we see if LFM has the same kind of priority over Hanzo that other teams have before. SpaceStation getting Greymane and Hanzo again seems like a whole lot of race damage to have for Battlefield of Eternity and the Immortals. But there are other heroes too that have been favored in the past. Vala with Hungering Arrow build.
Hello, Vala.
Vala has not been played
Paging
yet in
Vala.
North America. Li Ming, if you want to go for more of a poke-centric style of composition.
I think, you know, we've seen a high priority on Li Ming throughout the day. I think we'll see more of it. But again, single target damage is going to be something that will be considered. Cassia may even make it again, depending on, you know, potentially the support on the other side. We still have Lucio available here. They're sticking with what they know.
Arthas as the Greymane counter again. Lucio to help with that, to give sound barrier, to be the all-around awesome rotating mobility sound barrier support that he is. Now SpaceStation. Hanzo, Tyrael. These are questions that I have for them. Is it the same Tyrael Greymane?
I'm just trying to think of what else I would like other than Tyrael. Diablo, you know, we've seen it, I think, as far back as the Team 12 World 20 draft. There's just not enough, I guess, terrain to get the collision in, as it is on other battlegrounds, but it is something that teams will prioritize. You know, we've got Murden. Equinox played a lot of Murden when he played tank for Gale Force this time last year.
The only other hero I'm wondering about is, because it's Battlefield of Eternity, Kharazim. It would be picking a Kharazim into an Arthas, but it's also the first support that Tomster started playing when he switched to support for Lag Force. Still, the opportunity is still open for him to go that route, but they're going to get Leoric for Jason, and they'll get the Leeming.
Well, consider me off the Hanzo train, apparently. I'm really surprised that he's made it through.
Definitely. I am as well.
His race potential is sky high. His team fighting potential, and people are picking him on Sky Temple no matter what. It seems like he's kind of taken over that role we have normally the Greymane Vala in terms of our auto attack style heroes that have that mage style blow up if needed. Vala, of course, is there, but you know, we saw Cassia last game. Maybe some teams have different priorities in how that works.
It is great to see that SpaceStation has been so willing to punish LFM not getting their damage dealers high, right? They're prioritizing either Dahaka, Lucio, or Arthas and Lucio, and these are strong heroes. But SpaceStation tries to take full advantage of that by getting all of their ranged damage dealers out the start so that they can at least get the advantage in some area like that. You've got a big old grin on your face.
Nope,
What's up?
I don't know. Stukov going to be banned here. Potentially some more melee coming in. Arthas, again, doesn't have mobility, and he can get kind of stuck in there. Stukov does really well to zone out, especially in defensive positionings around the Immortals. And again, sometimes it speaks to another melee coming in there.
Yeah.
So Stukov, you know, we've seen a fair bit of him today, and it seems pretty impactful. I've liked what I've seen from Stukov today.
He is a really fun hero just to watch with flailing swipes and lurking arms, of course. Feels very impactful. Ban for SpaceStation. I would guess it's going to be a damage dealer. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but literally second ban phase.
You can't have your cake and eat it too, okay?
I don't want the cake. It's red velvet. Give me like just plain cake, maybe birthday cake, chocolate cake, white icing.
So boring. All right, fine.
So
Yuga cake. SpaceStation takes away Hanzo. So no Hanzo for LFM. Where's the damage going to go now?
Vala, Cassia instantly come to mind. When you have Greymane and Leeming on the other side, you know, we mentioned it earlier with Tracer, you know, being something that we would see. I think she's fallen off just because the Tassadar fall off, but this would be a battleground when teams like to skirmish. But with a Leeming and Greymane on the other side, it doesn't seem as likely. So it really comes down, I think, to the Vala or the Cassia in terms of race potential. I don't really see a whole lot else unless we're just bringing in a whole new meta here.
7 seconds until we figure something out for LFM Esports. Have they shot themselves in the foot for damage? They say no. Tyrael and Tychus. Tyrael is a pretty cool steal away from SpaceStation.
I think they're basically daring them to go Murden. We saw them hover it, consider it for the ban. They opted for Stukov.
Yeah.
Tyrael gives you that dive potential. Tychus does contribute. Again, his auto attack buff gives him a little bit more in terms of the race. He's not necessarily known as a race style hero on the Immortal, but it does give him that frontline control if Murden's trying to zone, things like that. So he can burst through that high health pool. Tyrael, of course, does a lot of really good things with that melee style. So that gives you the Arthas Tyrael. Is there something that could potentially be coming behind that, though, is what I'm wondering.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out too. I think the support's going to say a lot about what LFM feels like they can draft there. They have left themselves pretty open, but either way, it seems like LFM are going to have to go more for picks for fights than for racing SpaceStation. Malf and Murden. There is Equinox's Murden.
And it favors the matchup of Tychus, but you got to have more in terms of race. Arthas, okay. Tyrael, okay, but they're not necessarily lighting it up. Tychus, not lighting it up. So do you go full skirmish, full team fight? Do you have a backup option? Vala is still available, and I think Vala would be more than okay in this composition to give yourself race, to give yourself skirmish potential. they've got to make some decisions. I like their draft otherwise, but I feel they need more punch to it.
Could it be? I mean, we've already established it could be Cassie again.
Yeah.
They could just go for Cassie again. It would feel more like a fight comp than a race comp. 5 seconds. Where's this draft going, LFM? All right.
Okay, I didn't want to say this after I saw the earlier part, and I was like, maybe they'll bring on it, because that just seemed a bit too much. Now I wish I would have said, hey, I think maybe they'll go Illidan. I promise I had it on my mind.
There are a lot of more teams who are being able to or looking at drafting as a trend now that we're not seeing so much double support into more of these melee style comps. Double warrior plus a melee assassin, especially when you start looking at some of the stealth heroes too. So this is really cool to see that Illidan is in. I had no idea if LFM could pull off this kind of flexibility. I think it's a fair question to have for them. Although you have to be pretty flexible as an open division team to deal with whatever people are throwing at you.
It can be a little all over the place at times,
Yeah.
but you know.
Apparently, you talked about Cho'Gall earlier.
Old school in open division. Like imported support, teams like that, and everybody's like, well, what if we ran it? Well, what if we ran
Yeah.
it? There were quite a few teams that would get on that. But you look at the composition on the side, you've got Malfurion, who has Twilight Dream. But if you get Tyrael on there, and you can get the Sanctification down, Malfurion pre-13, when he gets Ice Block, will be under assault. And there's not necessarily a lot there to deal with it. Greymane does really well skirmishing into that, but then you've got Sound Barrier. You've got the added support from the Tyrael shields. You've got Arthas, oh, by the way, it's going to be on top of all that. So I think there's a lot of pros that could go in on that. But as we talked about in the draft, this now says you are a full-on skirmishing team.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense now seeing in the draft the early Arthas into a potential Muradin ban. These are two heroes who slow down attack speed, and Illidan is very reliant on that attack speed to succeed, to reduce the cooldown of his abilities, and to be able to keep the self-sustain going. LFM is in the blue. SpaceStation is in the red. LFM winning game 1, but it was by no means a landslide. They were behind at a lot of points. They won the right team fights to get back into the game. Let's see if they can go up 2 games over SpaceStation.
The wave clear department really scares me. Let's say SpaceStation gets a half shield immortal. Your only range damage at that point is going to be the Tychus, who doesn't have incredible clear. So I think we might see a style of play to where they try and get the shield down, have the Immortal move into melee range, and then try and take the fight beyond the Immortal, because the Immortal won't prioritize the same way a Punisher does. So I think there's a lot of potential for LFM to just be hyper-aggressive, win or lose the Immortal.
Well, the Lucio talent sort of lends to that. I don't know if I've ever seen a team pick maximum tempo, but you're looking to get 5 takedowns while Speed Boost is active, which is a tricky game, but kind of a fun game to play if you've never tried it. And then you're going to permanently increase the Amp It Up speed for crossfade up to 60% instead of the normal 45. So that is
Are you advocating for people to try that?
Fast. It's really fun.
Is it?
It's a fun.
Fun or frustrating?
Frustrating for the other team. You do it well.
I bet you pick Conviction after all. Well, wave clear, not a huge concern. If you think about Li Ming, doesn't have the best unless you land really good orbs, and Greymane probably does his best wave clear when he's in melee range. They're going to find an advantage somewhere else.
Nice. Equinox jumps from the shadows to the Storm Bolt, but swaps, still having evasion, and fast rotations from LFM to help. He's gonna be just fine. A lot of rotations happening in between both of the lanes, up and down, seeing where they can find some sort of advantage, knowing that there is more time for those rotations now that it's a longer spawn time for the Immortals. It used to be very short, and so you really didn't want to lose out on anything, making the long rotation between the 2 lanes that are quite far away. But in this case, you have more wiggle room for that. And you have more room to pick up the Fallen Shaman right before 2.
Wiggle, 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 yeah. So, again, camp prioritization in the early game is something that'll be a huge highlight for Battlefield of Eternity going forward. Looks like they're going to sit on the Shaman camp on the side of SpaceStation while we see LFM here at the bottom. This gives you a lot of play to get that push in the lane. It forces a lot of responses. We also see where the Immortals will be. So there's a lot of counterplay to go in here for both teams.
What's cool, though, is that LFM rotated down to the bottom. They sort of gave up a little bit of time on top to get Illidan, who is a great merking hero on his own. So they have the double camp to just the single of SpaceStation to the top. That's obviously going to push a lot harder. And while they were expecting SpaceStation probably to beat the Shaman, maybe not, maybe knowing that they'd be able to catch them off guard by getting this double camp. Also, I wondered if this might be the case, looking at the potential Murden ban that we almost saw from LFM. Murden does have reverberation and can reduce the attack speed slow even more, and he's going to need to use that there because Casanova is in a lot of trouble going back through Swabs, meets his fate with a Draded there, almost goes down and finally does. And Swabs just barely lives as he gets back to his game.
Good synergy there. That dive in from Draded on Tyrael really locked that in. I think maybe Casanova had a chance to get out of there, but perfect placement of that Eldruns for the body block. Very well done. LFM, they're being aggressive. That's what they need to do, but they're getting caught in the middle of this Immortal. Equinox, though, taking a bit of damage.
That was awesome, though. Equinox got hit by the grenade that pulled him back, but he knew the stun was about to go down, and there's just so much melee from LFM that they all got knocked back, and then from that point, Equinox could dwarf toss over the wall. But SpaceStation, not where they want to be right now. They have Leeming and Greymane, they expected that they would have a lot of damage done to the Immortal. Instead, because they lost someone earlier on, they lost the Casanova. Now they're the ones who have to get aggressive in the defense, but they're rewarded by taking out Arthas.
Casanova going in, making the play. Swabs using that friend or foe going through, but Casanova one more time. Give me another kill, Casanova. Not able to escape Tyrael's
Archangel's Wrath. Almost, though. He tried to razor swipe out of it. They'll send Casanova back now and Jay Shrita to bring down the Immortal health bar. Great root. That root, the stun. Oh, man, and that's the reduced healing, too, now that 4 is on. But LFM take out Malfurion 2. T dodging the Stormbolt, but there's a stun there, too, and just a Dwarf with body blocks. And this is turning into quite the battle back and forth for the first Immortal phase.
Oh, they're throwing down right now. Swabs, like, guys, Murden looks like he's attainable here. The entire time, Murden, however, bought the time needed for SpaceStation to get the first Punisher of the game. Shrite low on mana. We'll see how he recharges. Probably just tap. We also have Innervate, of course, available from Tomster there on Malfurion. Again, will we see LFM take this shield down so that moves into melee range, eats damage from both towers, and then try and fight behind? It might be a little bit too early for that.
Yeah, and it's fairly low, too. Illidan's at the top. If they wanted to get into the full fight, they have to rotate down or take the 4v4.
I think it'll be more of like a post-10 thing that they try and pull off.
Speaking of 10, do you anticipate any change-up from the hunt for Illidan? Like a metamorphosis? Well, that obviously would be the other option.
He's got a third secret one nobody knows about. Control 3 in-game, it'll show up promises.
It's like a secret menu at a restaurant.
Yeah, you know, I don't think that we'll see anything differently. The only thing that makes me worry about it, of course, Malfurion's going to be your prime target. Post-13 Ice Block is way too difficult to try and get that in. Leeming has Force Armor. Greymane, he's kind of,
whoa!
Goodness.
Figgy has to watch out.
Oh!
Has to go back.
Casanova this game, Gilly, is making all the plays for his team.
And remember, that is a new role for him.
Yes, it doesn't look like it, though, because he is going off right now.
10 almost here. I'm going to say it just because I feel like maybe I should be the one to suggest it, but is this a possible Judgment Hunt game?
Who's your target, though? There's not enough targets for me just because of Force Armor alone, and I don't think you get the right type of deletion, because Tychus is really your main follow-up in terms of damage, and I don't know how I feel about that. I feel that Metamorphosis getting in there, he went Battered Assault, so he gets the extra time on that. But in case he's like stunned out or Twilight Dream or something like that, but they have the extra protection from Sanctification, which we would assume unless they go Judgment. But I feel it just gives him so much, especially against a Malfurion in this style setup. I almost wonder if we might see a different Leeming talent at 13. just because it's not necessarily you're taking big chunks there. And I think that level 13, Li Ming has the auto attack talent, so there could be some change up. If I'm Li Ming, I'm considering that.
And I forgot about Nature's Cure too. I thought maybe Malfurion would be the target, but if that doesn't go well, then you've put yourself in a position for a Twilight Dream and then Ice Block after the fact, and that could be detrimental to LFM. But man, Immortals were fighting and SpaceStation just took out a keep anyway, just using the fact that they had heroics so far in advance of LFM, who now get theirs. It is the hunt for Illidan, but Sanctification still for Tyrael.
The threat of level 10, they just had no defense. When you have this style composition, essentially 3 melee as a support and then somebody that doesn't necessarily have great wave clear, you'll find yourself at a disadvantage when defending in those situations. They do have a global in the form of the hunt, which makes this a little less hurtful, but it is still a keep down on a 2-lane map.
Yeah, it does not feel good to lose that keep that early on in the game, but LFM came back 1 game ago, and we're still able to win it. SpaceStation now setting up in sort of a concave, getting moved around.
Hunt in. There it is.
Way in the back line. On Tomster. Twilight Dream would hit, but Sanctification was perfect, knew it was going to come in. It did combo at the same time as Sound Barrier, so there's nothing else to keep enabling in this. But as long as they get the kill, I think they would say worth. Odin takes down Murden, but Illidan does fall too, and now the resets are starting to flow in. Lucio goes down, so does Arthas. Malfurion will fall in the end, but we're looking at a potential team wipe of LFM.
That was aggressive, to say the least. There was a little bit of an overlap, too, because normally you don't want your Sound Barrier and your Sanctification to overlap. Maybe instantly, maybe cast one before the other, or one's needed. Maybe your Sound Barrier coming out of it. Because once that Sanctification wore off, the shields are pretty much down since they're a gradual decline. And it didn't have the necessary. If they get on the same page there, that might look a bit different. They survive a little bit longer, get the kills for themselves. But the minute Li Ming got that reset, it was just LFM getting blown up.
Yeah, it was amazing timing. They knew Malfurion was moving in for the Twilight Dream, and they were in a terrible choke to be hit by that. So something had to go down, and Sanctification makes sense. It's just that using Sound Barrier at the same time, and now they don't have these heroic abilities at all. Jason marches through all of them. Jay Shrita goes in deep, hoping he can get a reset on Specialty. He's still keeping himself alive, barely. Tychus did go down, now Dominance coming in. Jay Shrita is going off.
Shrita is straight popping off. He's looking for more. Lucio should be able to get away. He's turning his attention elsewhere, but Shrita, welcome to North America, buddy. Show him what you're made of.
Wow, Jay Shrita's second game in a league region after showing just how strong of a player he was at every international event for Latin America. The only player to do so. Now, looking to get his first victory in North America. Not quite over yet. This is pushing up toward the top, but already having a keep down, having that 3-level lead. Things look good for SpaceStation to tie up the series.
Well, this is a tough spot. LFM, the only range damage is Tychus, and his Odin is gonna wear off soon. The shields are just now falling. This could be 2 keeps down, and if SpaceStation gets a kill or 2, it gets the same type of resets, we might be looking at game here. We got a 3-level lead, SpaceStation putting it on.
Only Sanctification up, no Sound Barrier for 20 seconds still. Equinox will finish his Stormbolt quest. Dreaded in pretty deep with all of SpaceStation. Let's Cursed Bullet out.
This is just almost too much to overcome. The shields are down, the hunt's on the backside.
Thanks.
The instant Twilight Dream in response. The shields are down, and we are talking 70%. This is going to be game.
Yeah, Casanova is leading LFM on a merry little chase all the way to the back of their base. 25% as Lucio falls. SpaceStation. Man, even if they had lost people, they still would have had a lot of damage done to the core. There's no Mule there to heal that back up. They had both of their forts, but SpaceStation take and make a core call like that. That is something that they became known for once Equinox joined the team. Decisive core calls, and they'll tie up the series.
If I'm making the core call and I look over, I'm like, oh, your only range damage is Tychus? Okay, just walk right in. That's the hardest part, is if you draft that style of composition that LFM does and you don't have the success in team fights, you have your back against the wall. And then you start to be like, all right, we're going to have a hard time defending this, and you lose a keep. then you lose a second keep. And if you make it beyond that, you no longer just have to take one team fight. You have to take several team fights. And that's why it's such a hard thing to execute. And I just think that LFM they tried to do a little bit too much in their draft there, but we've still got ourselves a 1-1 series.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if we'll see some changes now to LFM's drafting in the early stage, given the fact that it did seem to hurt them, the range chokes that hit. But maybe their idea all along was to get that Illidan out, since they did have almost a Muradin ban and they took Arthas early. We will see how that draft goes after the break. We're tied 1-1. We'll see you soon. It goes in deep, hoping he can get a reset on specialty. He's still keeping himself alive, barely. Tychus did go down, now Dominance coming in. Jay Shrita is going off.
Shrita is straight popping off. He's looking for more. Lucio should be able to get away. He's turning his attention elsewhere, but Shrita, welcome to North America, buddy. Show him what you're made of.
Wow, Jay Shrita. It's one game all around for the second series of North America today. SpaceStation Gaming going up against the newcomers, LFM Esports. LFM got the surprising victory in Game 1, but I do have to admit Game 2 seemed a little bit more like what I expected just for their first match or so in HGC.
Yes, but how much of that was more draft as opposed to play, though?
That's true.
I mean, it's still up in the air for me.